Hey, back again so soon. I know what you're thinking. It's like, does this guy ever stop? No, there's no quit. There's no quit. There's just more. We ain't never gonna stop. We're just gonna keep going. Keep, keep paving the pavement. Keep paving. Keep, keep pounding the pavement. Keep pounding the pavement. That's how the phrase go. I'm very excited for my guest today. We have a legendary natural bodybuilder joining us. We're going to get some good insight into his legacy, the experiences that he had throughout his career as a natural bodybuilder, and just go into like a good understanding as to what the sport has been missing and if we can actually fill that void. So my guest just joined. I'm going to invite you to with the thing. So when you click the thing, accepting the thing. Hey,
Well, I made it.
how you doing?
I'm good, Sean. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you,
All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
dude. This is
Pleasure
this
to be
is.
on.
I'm really excited about this conversation. So I really appreciate you being here. Um, First off, before we actually get into it, tell me about your relationship with Marshall Johnson, because that's kind of how you and I connected through Marshall.
Yes. Yes.
Marshall, he, in a lot of ways, changed my life. He
Wow.
helped me find God and Jesus Christ. Just from a 2 hour conversation, he welcomed me into his home, and we had a very, very deep and profound conversation that really lightened my spirit. And ever since that conversation, I've been walking around with lighter shoulders, thanks to Marshall. So I'm very appreciative of him.
Amen to that. Yeah, Marshall was my brother in Christ, brother in arms. I went to his church, which is Cornerstone Church in uh, not Chantilly, but it's Leesburg, Virginia, with him. Our faith is very strong. That definitely helps us with the humility, especially in this sport, obviously. And Marshall and I go back way back to about 2012. We both competed at the Yorton Cup, and when I saw him backstage pumping up, and at the time I think he was like 52,
Mhm.
and I was in my 40s still. And when I saw him, I was like, who is this guy out of nowhere? Because he had taken some time off from competing, and he was just back there, just very humble, smiling, had that pleasant look like he always does. And we just introduced each other, and he knew me. I think he was telling, and he probably told the story about how when he was trying to get back into bodybuilding, he looked at who the top natural bodybuilders, and he saw my picture of where he had to be at. And me and him have competed against each other a few times. Always such a close battle because of his conditioning and his shape and his grainy, just muscularity. And we just had that respect for each other our entire career. And obviously, we lived here in Virginia together, so we've gone and worked out at this gym called the Shop where he lives. But yeah, he's just an incredible guy. One of the men that I look up to. He motivates me because he's 64, still doing it at the highest level. So he's got 10 years on me and he's still rolling, so I have no excuse. But our relationship is very, very close. And natural bodybuilding is the fountain of youth. Having that relationship with God is the fountain of youth because God is the one that powers us and that throughout our day keeps us grounded. And so we have a lot in common. So that's why he's such a great friend of mine.
Beautiful, beautifully said. And yeah, he mentioned you several times. I recorded the whole conversation because to me, every step of this entire project, I don't know how much you know about the Natty King project that I'm working on, but I'll give you like the cliff notes. But basically, the idea is to create a promotion, uh, basically called the King of Naturals Tournament, with a $1 million cash prize going to the winner of that tournament, and
Wow.
they would receive the title of the Natty King, which would be
Wow.
like an unprecedented moment within the sport of bodybuilding as a whole, with the highest cash prize available for the sport of bodybuilding, and it only is exclusive to a natural bodybuilder. And that's why I actually, it's all very intentional. Like I want to create history, and I want to make that history exclusive to natural athletes because I feel like it's just my personal opinion. We, as natural athletes and natural bodybuilders, have kind of been too humble, and as a result, we've allowed the enhanced side of the sport to kind of take all the glory and all the recognition. And it's
Mm,
really kind of, and again, this is just my humble opinion, it has kind of dirtied the perception of the sport and has incentivized new athletes to take steroids in order to achieve the same type of glory that our favorite role models like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Ronnie Coleman have achieved in their careers. And
right.
my intention is to present role models equivalent, if not surpassing that of Arnold and Ronnie Coleman, only have them be natural athletes so that the next generation have an idea as to like who they want to become when they grow up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, I think that's a incredible thing that all natural bodybuilders should be interested in, obviously. Who doesn't want to have that same treatment that, the NPC IFBB bodybuilders have? Because, like you said, we're not doing it for the money. When you do this, it's mainly for the healthy lifestyle, the love of the sport, the athletes that we encounter, and whatever comes after that is a bonus. But obviously, we do talk about it. We do want to get recognized. We want, some notoriety, some money if possible. But at the end of the day, it is all about the love of the sport. So,
So maybe you can help me with some perspective, okay? My perception is that, let's say, bodybuilding first became very successful when Arnold Schwarzenegger hit the scene, and the golden era, and Joe Weider kind of takes Arnold under his wing. We've already had Reg Park and Larry Scott and all those, very old school guys, but it didn't really become, let's say, a version of mainstream attention
right.
until Arnold started winning, and then you had Pumping Iron come out, and then it kind of blew up after the documentary Pumping Iron, right?
Very, very
So
true. Yep.
yeah, so our idea is to do something very similar, only instead of it being a documentary, it's an entire cinematic universe because we're decades along in the process of storytelling, and you don't just have to make one product in order to tell a story. If you look at the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the Star Wars franchise, they split up stories into multiple different versions of media, whether it be feature-length films, cinematic docuseries, animes, cartoons, graphic novels, etc., etc. That's exactly what I want to do for the Natty King franchise. And it
Nice.
starts with crowning the first Natty King, but what I wanted to talk to you about is the retroactive crowning of a natural bodybuilder before the Natty King ever came into fruition.
Mm,
So our
wow.
intention is to go into production in 2028, and up until that point, I mean, I guess what I'm interested in getting your feedback on is, let's say this whole production, the King of Naturals tournament, $1 million cash prize, and the title of the Natty King existed 15 years ago. What athletes come to mind that would even qualify to compete for such a title?
Wow. Wow. It's a great question. I mean, 15 years ago was kind of when I was, in my prime, battling against the best of the best out there, which included like the Marshall Johnsons. You've got the Doug Millers, Kyoshi Moody's, Clarence McGill. Um, Let me see, the Texas Shredder, Dave Gooden, Rob Hope, Brian Whitaker, Siobhan Cunningham. I mean, there's a long, long list. Martin Daniels. It's not even just America. If you're including this as a global thing, there's a lot of bodybuilders from the UK, Australia, Michael Waddington, Justin Ferreira. There's a few that I'm probably forgetting. You got Misheko Chiang, and some of these guys are still, in the game still at this time. But just back then, it was just an incredible amount of just a lot of good rivalries. And the thing is, back then, because there were maybe three top natural federations that not the each of those champions didn't always go up against each other. And I tried my best during my career to go up and compete against them because I wanted to see, where I stood against the best of the best. And I did get a chance to compete against those guys, most of them. Um, but at the end of the day, who at the time was at their peak, you got to catch them at the right time, wrong time, whatever. And like I said, Marshall was in that group, but there are so many. Like I said, I'm forgetting a few right now, but the main champions are the ones that tried to compete against all the other natural bodybuilders in each of the federations. But if you got all those guys on stage at that time, it would have been definitely, the biggest championship of the world for natural bodybuilding. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I don't know if I told you this. I was watching. Yeah, I think I did. I was watching a 20-minute clip of the podcast that you did on longevity muscle with Kiyoshi
yes,
Moody,
oh
and
yes.
I was looking at some of the images. What is his name? Will, the host of longevity?
Oh, it's oh my goodness, now I'm forgetting his
I
name
think it
too.
is Will, but I could be completely wrong. We've never corresponded.
I think it's Johnny, but now I'm like, my brain is
Yeah.
foggy now from the workout, but it'll come to me.
Yeah, yeah. If it comes
Oh,
to me,
sorry, it's Kenny. Kenny.
Kenny. Yeah, you're right.
Yes,
It is
Kenny.
Kenny.
Yep,
Yeah, thank
yep.
you. Yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to having that conversation with Kenny because I know that he is incredibly well learned in the history of
Yes,
the sport.
yes, yes,
In
yes.
fact, I are you familiar with Natty News Daily?
Oh, of course, yeah. I know all
Okay.
those guys, and
Okay.
they're doing an incredible job of capturing all the federations as well. Um, when it comes to like the Mr. America, WMBF, globally, they're catching all the guys today. The ones that are the up and coming to give those guys the notoriety that you're trying to do. So they're definitely the best, I guess, collaboration that you can do if you're trying to find out who's the best now in
Yeah.
the sport. The
Yeah.
young up and comers. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're on the same page, and I intend on enlisting the help of both of them. I think I would say Natty News Daily is probably going to be more so the source of news when it comes to the current athletes, like you just described.
Perfect. Yep.
As we go into production with the intention of that happening in 2028, I would really like to get Natty News Daily's involvement in a very big way so far as the production is concerned. And then when I think of how Kenny has been managing longevity muscle, he does seem to be focusing more on the historical aspect of
Yes.
natural bodybuilding. So to that extent, again, it goes back to I do have a legitimate desire of retroactively crowning the Natty King as if the King of Naturals tournament existed, let's say, arbitrary number 15 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, conversations like these are helpful for me so I can get the list of names and get your perspective as to who you think would be deserving of it. The reason
Mm.
I'm most excited about having this discussion with you specifically is there was a moment during your conversation with Kiyoshi Moody and Kenny where you actually stated that you prefer Kiyoshi Moody's physique over yours,
Yeah,
right?
and there's no doubt about that. Yeah, I mean, sorry to interrupt, but sorry, Kyoshi's physique when it comes to the size, shape, balance, not really having a weakness, he has the ideal physique. If he stands on stage, just because of sheer size that he's built, he stands out in a lineup. And if he comes in with that conditioning and muscularity that it takes to just be the champion, I mean, obviously he won the Natural Olympia 6 times in a row, but he's very, very hard, if not impossible, to beat, in my opinion, on a natural bodybuilding stage. The only reason why I was able to beat him a couple of times was when he wasn't at his peak condition, and I came in my peak condition with the resident enough size to, take away that advantage. Otherwise, it's him all day.
Fascinating,
Yeah.
fascinating. Let me ask you this question. Are you familiar with the bodybuilders of the golden era, such as Arnold Schwarzenegger, Frank
Oh
Zane,
yes,
Serge
definitely.
Brett, Robbie
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so you know
yes.
all those
All those.
guys, right?
Yeah. Oh, that I grew up with that. I grew up, and that's the only reason why I got into bodybuilding before I even knew what natural was. I was naive to think, those guys just had incredible physiques. I didn't know about steroids. I just tried to do my best to eat and, you know, like I said, naively get to that level. But there was the Sean Rays and the Flex Wheelers. Those
Sean
are the
Ray's
type
one of
of
my
guys that
favorites.
I wanted. Yeah, he was my favorite. I wanted
Yeah,
to be Sean Ray because obviously being a light skinned African American man, I wanted to like that look. And that was
yeah.
what I was attaining to get. But those guys, they're the ones that got me into the sport. Of course, back in the day, it was Arnold, it was Serge Nubret, it was Robbie Robinson, Frank Zane, Lou Ferrigno, all those guys, Warrior Co. I knew them all, read the magazines, did push-ups, and here I am now.
I love that. I love that. Okay. And this question is inconsequential, but this is just for future reference. Have you ever judged a bodybuilding show?
Yeah, I've judged many bodybuilding shows. In fact, I've been the head judge of the Mr. America, which is one of the biggest natural bodybuilding shows that's
INBA,
in the
right?
country. Well, Mr. America is actually unaffiliated, but they accept pro cards from all the natural federations.
Got it.
It's the longest running um, bodybuilding show probably in history because back in 1939, I believe it was, those bodybuilders that we mentioned, the Frank Zanes, the Lou Ferrignos, those guys, they won the Mr. America title. Now it's open only to natural bodybuilders.
Nice.
So by the grace of God, Mark Torriello, who's the promoter for the head promoter for the show, he has me there as one of the judges, and I've been able to head judge the last couple of times. So it's
Beautiful.
been a great
Beautiful.
honor. Yep.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay, so let's have a little bit of fun understanding that. For one, I've never been a judge, and I've only competed twice, so I'm very new and fresh to the sport. So please consider me a student who is just very
Right.
passionate about bringing recognition to the sport that I very adamantly feel that it deserves.
Hey,
So
I love the passion. We need that in the sport. So
yes,
thank you.
thank you,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
So the question is, let's say you were a judge during the golden era and you were sitting, or let's say you're a head judge of the Mr. Olympia, and Arnold is on stage. You've got Robbie Robinson, you've got Serge Nubret, you've got let's throw Mike Menser in there, Frank Zane, like really heavy hitters, right? Who would you be picking as like the physique that beyond the physique? Who do you want to be the Mr. Olympia out of that lineup
Wow.
as a judge?
Well, obviously Arnold won, I think 6, 7 times.
Six.
Frank Zane, yeah, Frank Zane won it 3 times. And so we've had those guys win. So if you look at the uncrowned, which is like the Mike Mensers, the Robbie Robinsons, he won the Masters. Um, if if they came in at their best, so Arnold always came in at his best, and he had the size, which I think he deserved those victories, except for
1980.
the last one. Yes, 1980 is the only one he didn't deserve, where I think Mike Menser should have won. Um, but if you put them on the stage with all of them at their peak, I think Arnold gets it. But I love Robbie Robinson's physique. Small waist, the muscle bellies. Maybe from the rear, he could probably use a little bit more tightening up. But I love to see him in the top. I know Frank Zane, beautiful physique. So if he comes in on and everyone else is off, he's going to be the man. Um, I love Serge Nubret. I think he also could have been in there, but I think he didn't have the same flair that Arnold had. So it's really tough. For me, back in those days, it still probably would have been Arnold most of the time, except for 1980.
Okay, okay. Let's talk about 1980 for a second. Um, the majority of bodybuilding enthusiasts, those who have been initiated and have a understanding of that moment in history, they would agree with you that Arnold should not have won the 1980.
Right.
Since you have been a judge and you have been on that side of the table, why did he win if the majority of the world doesn't think that he should have?
I mean, I hate to say it, but there's a lot of politics involved. The face of the sport is Arnold, and that's the reason why it is mainstream now. I don't know what his relationship. I don't know the full story, but I'm sure that him and Ben and Joe Weider had this relationship where if you come and compete, you're going to fill the stadium. You're going to make sure that the show makes money. When you're a promoter of a show, which I'm also a promoter, you find out that you're trying to fill the seats. You're trying to get as many athletes as you can to make money at the show. So I don't know the full truth. I can't say I know for sure, but if there's some politics involved saying that, hey, Arnold's coming back, he has to win. We can't let him lose, his last show, even though he's not on. That's the only reason I can see that happening, which is sad, but that's the only reason I can see that happening because
Okay.
otherwise there's no other reason why. And it's sad because it does happen in other federations too. Even to this day, there's some times where, the judges are going to see a familiar face. And instead of picking someone that probably deserves to win, unless you really knock that champion out, just like in any other sport, they're probably going to give the nod to, the reigning champion. So, but
So
that's how I see it.
okay, so you would say that there is something of a bias when it comes to how judges make their decisions based off of their own knowledge of the athlete, the incentives behind the specific federation, their agenda, things of that nature.
Yes, that is correct. I think there's a lot of bias, especially if you have the same judges at the show every single year. It's good to have a cross section of judges from, different countries, federations, whatever, just so that you have, the lack of the bias in the on that judging panel. So, but I don't know how the judging panel was then, but it does happen. I've seen it happen in shows that I've been at. I think there could be times even I might have gotten a nod that I didn't deserve, or vice versa. It's just the way it is,
Okay.
So,
It's
yeah.
just the way that it is. Okay.
Hmm.
I want to talk to you a little bit about what this concept is supposed to look like. I've already kind of mentioned the intention is to turn the Natty King into a franchise that spanned from a cinematic docuseries, which is intended to hop up on, excuse me, there's a bee. But
That's Southern
it's
California for you right
right,
there.
right. Um, but yeah, so the sequence of launches is cinematic docuseries first, where we are focusing on the 30 selected natural bodybuilding athletes to compete for the Natty King title, and it would be like, let's say, a 15 episode season. We would focus on two different athletes per episode, and
Wow.
we would go through their prep as they you know go into the tournament, right? Um, so keeping that in mind, the presence. All right, so we got politics, right? That plays a factor, and we've got physique, which should play a very big factor as to how judges and the audience are perceiving who should win this specific tournament, or if it's the Mr. Olympia or the Natty King tournament. We have politics plays a factor, physique plays a huge factor. What about presence? What can you tell me about presence?
Oh, presence is definitely key, but at the same time, you can have all the presence in the world, but if your physique doesn't back it up, the judges obviously would do the right thing and present the best physique, the best stage presence. It's just a combination of everything. So
Combination of
it's the
everything.
same thing when you have like a boxing match, right? You'll see someone who's got the character. He's saying all the right things during the interviews. He's, you know, just very flamboyant, showy. Get out there on the, out there in the um, boxing ring, and unfortunately, he's not. If he gets outboxed or he gets knocked out, then he loses. So that's what happens in bodybuilding as well. You'll have somebody that comes out there. They could be the quiet, humble physique that comes out there, poses the right way, looks at the judges, and commands the stage more than the one who's more flamboyant or has the personality, and that's it. So,
I
but
love
they
that.
all come into play. But you have to know how to present your physique, and I think we've been talking about the old school bodybuilders like Arnold and Frank and Serge and all of them. I think Arnold, you know, he knew how to present his physique. He knew how to have that character, and his physique backed it up, and that's why he was so successful against those guys. So,
Okay, and I love that. This is fantastic. Let's do a quick hypothetical. What if Arnold's personality was in Frank Zane's body, and Frank Zane's personality was in Arnold's body? What do you think history of bodybuilding would look like then?
wow, that's actually a good question because bodybuilding, especially then and now, was more about size, and Arnold had size in spades. Frank just had a beautiful physique, and he didn't really have the personality. He just showed off that artistic. And me personally, because I'm not a mass monster, I love the artistic side of bodybuilding. And I think that's what natural bodybuilding also kind of should be about. But I mean, also it is bodybuilding, and now they have classic physique, and that's a whole nother story that we can go into. So, but as bodybuilders, you have the best combination. Frank Zane, if he had the Arnold personality, there's a good chance that maybe the criteria could have changed a little bit to where they're like, you know, this guy has a beautiful physique, he's got the personality, people want to look like him. Maybe that changes the way the criteria would have went with regard to the judging and the way maybe Joe and Ben Weeder like pushed, but they all have their successes. But just going off of what you said with that question, yeah, if Arnold didn't have a personality, he's just a big guy just standing up there without that presence, who knows? Because that's kind of how Lou Ferrigno was. Lou Ferrigno was even bigger than Arnold, but he didn't have that stage presence.
Yes.
So unfortunately, he wasn't able to knock him out. But Arnold he had it. So if we put that in Frank Zane's body with that beautiful physique of his, it could have happened. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we are on the same page about this. And like, I like to have these conversations live because they get recorded and we get to refer to this conversation 5 years down the line. And this conversation specifically is actually very important because right now we're going to actually get into the specifics of the judging criteria for the King of Naturals tournament.
Wow. Okay.
Understanding that this is an unprecedented cash prize of $1 million, exclusive to specifically for the first season. I want it to be lifetime naturals, which is a bit difficult to prove. So like that's something that has to be tackled.
Right.
And then beyond that, okay, that's a big prize money. Like a lot of money's on the line. How are we selecting this athlete who is deserving of the title of the Natty King?
Mm, yeah.
How? Okay, so I guess what we can start with, and I thank you so much. This is like, um, I guess what we can start with is how do you normally select a champion of a Mr. America? How do you select the Mr. America?
Yeah. Mr. America, once again, this is tough because each federation has their own criteria in a way. You're supposed to obviously select the best physique on stage that day. Even if the criteria is you have to have the best symmetry, the best, because you go through your different rounds, like you've gone through, you have your mandatory poses, compulsory poses, and then sometimes your pose routine counts, not always for bodybuilding, I get used to, but that still plays a role, especially if it's a close competition. Um, but selecting the winner normally comes down to that comparison. When you're comparing somebody next to each other, you'll see right away, and me being a head judge a couple of times at the Mr. America, it wasn't about who was the reigning champion because we've had different champions almost every single time at Mr. America. And we've had a lot of different physiques and different athletes that have come out from different countries. So, and that's in most federations as well. But at Mr. America, I would look at the whole lineup and you call out the ones who you see look like they have the top physiques to compare against, and you shift them around back and forth. And of course, all the things that we've been talking about when it comes to, okay, who's got the size, who's got the balance, who's got the conditioning, those all come into play. And the more that you see them on stage, the more endurance they have as the judges are like putting them through the ringer, which I love to do. I'm going to test you and make sure that you have done your posing practice, that you're in condition to continue to flex, continue to smile, and have the endurance to pose for as long as you can. And if you're able to make it through that, and you are doing that in a better job at that than the other athletes that are on the stage, you have the best chance to win. So that's kind of where I'm going with it. And it's not always the biggest guy. There's times when the big guys, they'll look impressive when they come out, but it could be just that beautiful Frank Zane taper, and that has that endurance and doesn't and holds their poses the entire time. There's so many factors that come about when it comes to being a judge that it's not always the same. As a matter of fact, there could be a competitor at one show, or sorry, a lineup of competitors at one show that can be so close that in that one show, one person will win, and the next show they could flip flop, and the other person in the lineup wins. It just depends on your preparation. One thing could be off by like this minute amount of conditioning or tired, fatigue or muscularity or whatever it is. But that's usually how the show goes.
Love that, and that's a great response. Okay, so what you just described is how judging happens within the Mr. America, and you did clarify that there's slightly different judging criteria depending on the federation
Correct.
that the athlete is competing in.
Yes.
What about the way that I want to propose this? And I'm in Hollywood. I'm running around town pitching this concept to. It's probably going to end up on Netflix. That's what it looks like. So huge publicity, right?
Right. Right.
Biggest press, most attention on the sport of natural bodybuilding that has ever happened in the history of the sport, enhanced or natural, right? Whoever gets crowned the Natty King is not only the winner of the King of Naturals tournament, but also, as a result, becomes the face of natural bodybuilding.
Mm.
Very similar to how Arnold Schwarzenegger, by winning the Mr. Olympia, became the face of bodybuilding, specifically when Pumping Iron came out, right?
Right, right, right,
So,
right.
so keeping that in mind, if we are, let's say, just for again hypothetical, and I'm for the record, I'm a very open, transparent, and honest person, which is why these kinds of conversations are being documented and available to the public. Like, this is the very reason. So let's say in this hypothetical scenario that we put ourselves in the position of a Joe Weider, right? And we're putting
Right.
on this show and we're looking for mainstream appeal, right? So we go back to the golden era where we're producing this documentary, and this documentary, Pumping Iron, is going to make bodybuilding cool, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is the guy to do it, right?
Right.
Thank God he's got a great physique. Thank God
Yep.
his physique is so dominating. But there are stories that have come out about how they told Serge Nubret that he couldn't compete because he was allegedly in a pornographic film, only to let him know, I don't know, I think 10 days before the show.
Wow.
Yeah, only to let him know about like 10 days before the show that they changed their minds and that he can now compete. But during the span of time where he was told that he couldn't, he stopped eating. He lost
Right.
like his edges and all that stuff, so that when he went and competed and got, I want to say second, if I'm not mistaken,
Right.
during the documentary of Pumping Iron, he could have looked better
Yeah.
had they
Yeah.
not told him that he couldn't compete, right?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
so I say all this to say that, and I don't play like this. Obviously, that side of
Yeah.
the sport, they did a lot of shady things. They took
Oh yeah.
steroids. They
Right.
like,
Right. Right. Right.
yeah. So their
Yeah.
focus was on like, you know, maximizing their bottom dollar. However they could do it. If they wanted Arnold to win, let's make sure that he wins, right?
Right.
My focus is making this fair and transparent and crowning the right champion.
Mm.
Okay.
Right. Right.
Keeping that in mind, what would how would the judging criteria change, if at all, if we are no longer thinking about who is the best athlete on stage tonight and who is going to be the best representative of the sport for the next several years?
That's a very tough question. I don't know. Okay, I'll say this too. So I don't know if you know, but something similar to this did happen before that I was actually a part of on Generation Iron 4, Natty for Life, and that chronicled. It basically showed the side of the drug enhanced bodybuilding and natural bodybuilders. And I was very blessed to be part of that. And I was, especially being a Christian man, that I'm not the biggest personality or anything like that. I have a good standing in the sport, obviously, by the Lord's grace. But there was a person in there named Rob Terry, who's actually a great, great guy, but they made him as the personality because he was the two-time natural Olympia champion. And you would think, well, at the time, he actually was the face of natural bodybuilding. He was on Iron Man magazine a couple of times. Um, and so I think he was groomed to be the one. And during this film, because they did the same thing, followed us athletes around, you would have thought that he's the personality that's going to make natural bodybuilding grow. Um, and not to ruin the film for you, but at the end of it, something happened that, it changed. But I don't know because of him not winning, and that's how I'll leave it at that, that um, it made a difference in changing, the face of natural bodybuilding. So I feel like if he had won, yeah, I think he could have been the face because of his personality. He's a wrestler, right? He's got that personality. He's a great guy, family man, all these good things. Um, but if it's going to be more focused on that to where they're going to look for someone like a Rob Terry or someone with that personality and not necessarily the best physique on that day, um, that could change things. It could change, you know, how the athletes that are going to be involved in this endeavor want to be a part of, because they don't want to go in there thinking, okay, I already know this guy. He's has the look. He has the personality. He's probably going to be the one picked. They're going to want to go in there thinking that they have a chance to win the prize. So I would hope that it's a more fair thing, not looking at just the, you know, the bravado of someone or someone who's just out there because, you know, I believe all of the natural bodybuilders, one may be doing natural bodybuilding because of their moral character. And it doesn't mean that they have to be, you know, showy and all that, because I would almost think, not to say this in a negative way against the IFBB, but they're probably more, you know, like trying to be showy, trying to be a little bit above and beyond because that's why they're doing what they're doing. A lot of natural bodybuilders are more humble, and if they are going to be the face of natural bodybuilding, they can be so without having that crazy outgoing personality, but show it off by their physique and their character more than anything else.
That's a great response. And I'm going to make one observation before I actually respond directly to what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So the persona that I'm creating is a larger than life, greatest of all time narrative.
Mm,
Like
okay,
that's my narrative as Shaun Fury. I am going to
gotcha.
go down in history as the greatest natural bodybuilder of all time, not only from my winning resume, but more so for the legacy that I create within the sport of natural bodybuilding and onwards as I go on to tackle Hollywood and then politics directly after. I'm calling it
Wow.
the Schwarzenegger blueprint, right? So
Yes.
essentially I could go on stage dozens, 20, 30, 40 times in the timeline of my career, and I could win none of those. And I would still be able to create a legacy based
Right.
off of the contributions that I make to the sport and continue my career onwards after the sport concludes. So, yeah, and but the good news is like me personally, I'm with you. Like I want the best physique to win. So like if I'm not the best physique, then I don't want to win. Like I'm
Right.
not that kind of guy. Plus, like
Yeah.
I'm not in it for winning. I'm in it for personally. I think that natural bodybuilding should be glorified. And my biggest, I don't want to use the word issue, but my biggest concern is that as a result, due to the fact that natural bodybuilders are so humble, we are
Mm,
not properly promoting the sport. So that when I was 17, coming out of high school, I always liked working out. I loved lifting weights.
yeah, me too.
However, the only avenue that I saw so far as like monetizing or making a career out of bodybuilding required you to take steroids. And I had zero interest in doing that because,
Right.
very similar to you, or maybe not so, but like I prefer Frank Zane's physique over Arnold's, personally.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and because Frank Zane wasn't winning over Arnold, it's like, okay, well, I'm just not going to do it. Like, and they're
Right.
taking steroids, which I have no
Yes.
interest in taking. So
Yes.
that's
Yes.
where the persona comes from, specifically because when I look at the landscape of successful sports characters who are able to actually elevate the entire sport as a result of their presence, Conor McGregor is an athlete that I think of most readily. Who there
Yes.
is like
Yes.
a before Conor McGregor and what UFC looked like, and then there's an after Conor McGregor and what UFC looked like directly after Conor McGregor reached prominence.
Right. Yeah.
He is not the greatest so far as like winning career or whatever. He's not the greatest UFC fighter, but his legacy is cemented as like the turning point for how UFC became successful. So that's
Very true.
exactly what I'm looking to do with my character of Shaun Fury for the sport of natural bodybuilding. And if I win some championships, great. If I don't, not the end of the world because I still am going to have a great physique and like you know,
No,
it's
that
really,
that makes sense. No,
yeah.
you bring up a good point, and I actually, in my opinion, I've had a great career, and I kind of like just I go out, people know me, and I'm so grateful for that. But there are the Marshall Johnsons, right? I would consider him one of those type of guys. He's an ambassador for the sport. He has a personality. He can talk for days. He just lives and breathes this, right? So he's one. Of course, obviously he's in his 60s. So if you're going to look for a younger personality, and actually I do know a couple because one guy I'm actually considering to be my coach, and he's in Australia, and I think he has an unbelievable physique, drug free, lifetime drug free. So I can
What's his
see a
name?
guy like him. His name is Brandon Kempter,
Okay, I've heard of that
and
name.
I'll share his profile with you. But there's guys like him, and there's a few others that they're younger, and they have a great shot. They stepped on your stage that you're trying to, bring about. They'd have the chance to be that person because of their personality, their knowledge, their love for the sport. And there's others like him, but he comes to mind because I talk to him on a regular basis. But there's a bunch of guys that can really help this sport grow for the vision that you have. And so I
Absolutely.
do like where you're going. And it,
Yeah.
like you said, it doesn't have to be about them just winning.
Yeah.
It just what they can do. They can win a few. They can be out there, just be present in the sport
Hmm.
and continue to, just preach the gospel of natural bodybuilding.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with this connection being formed, please feel free to send me any athletes that come to mind that you think would be good candidates for this. We are casting a total of 30 natural bodybuilders for the first season of the Natty King.
Nice.
Right now, we have 7 cast already, and we're
Wow.
looking to cast an additional 3, 8, 9, 10 by the end of this year, and do
Wow.
another 10 in 2026, and then do a final 10 in 2027. So the
Mm,
idea is pre-production, which is exactly what this is. This is a part of pre-production. We want each year, as we get closer to going into production in 2028, we want it to kind of become a fever pitch where it's like, okay, we cast the first 10. This is actually happening. People are getting excited. Then we cast the next 10, and like we're 20 deep now. Okay, now there's 10 slots left for the year of 2027. That
right.
final 10 and how we cast that needs to be like a big spectacle in and of
Makes
itself.
sense.
Before
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
even go into the show, the final 10 needs to be like, everyone's knocking on the door. Please, Shaun, like take a look at my profile, take a look at my stuff, because like I'm who you're looking for. But we have to build up to that over the next couple of years.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Keeping that in mind, and this is something that we will be able to reference later on as we continue to build this whole thing, is that while I am looking for big personalities, I don't think that the face of natural bodybuilding and the winner of the Natty King needs to be that big personality. So the intention for the cinematic docuseries is to properly capture these athletes as they prep, but do it in a way where we're catching the best versions of themselves.
Mm,
Whether
yeah.
if they're stoic and they're a man of few words, how can we cinematically capture that stoicism in a way
Mm,
that captivates audiences? So that by
right.
the time that he walks on stage for the King of Naturals tournament, he has a fair shot of being as liked by the audience as much as myself, who is a loudmouth, who is like boisterous, claiming that he's the greatest of all time before he even does it. Because like my prime physique is probably 10 years away, and I'm still claiming that I'm the greatest of all time because I know how storylines work, and I feel very comfortable making claims like that. And it'll probably come true. But
Well, the good thing about you is that you have the name too. I mean, Shaun Fury. I mean, come on now.
yeah, yeah, okay,
Yeah, that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. So,
You can sell a lot with that name. So yeah.
absolutely. And we are on the same page with that. And
Yeah.
even touching on that, when you were talking with Kiyoshi and Kenny, you even mentioned the WWE style rivalry between you and Kiyoshi, right?
Yes. Oh yes.
And I really want to expand on that because before I even saw that podcast, I mean, this is year 2 of this project, right? It
Yes.
initially started out as a documentary, which just featured myself and my training partner, Valley Muscle. Very
Okay.
similar to Pumping Iron, with like if I'm Arnold, then he's Franco Columbo. A lot of parallels there. And then as we continue to make progress, I saw an opportunity to be more inclusive of multiple athletes and
Mm,
not make it just about myself and my training partner, and open up the world, make it more interactive, because
right.
for me, this is all about inclusivity and community, the
Mm,
value of community within natural bodybuilding and beyond, right? So
right.
keeping that in mind, before I ask you specifically as to how they actually marketed and sold that storyline between you and Kyoshi, my idea when it comes to, again, the franchise or the universe that's being built, which starts first as a cinematic docuseries and then turns into a feature-length film. And I do have an anime concept that's supposed to take place 20 years
Wow.
after the first crowning of the Natty King. So the Natty King gets crowned, and then we go right into production on an anime that takes place 20 years after the fact, right?
Wow.
In that future, we have on the enhanced side of the sport, they've, with advancements of modern day science, they're now genetically engineering bodybuilders to the point where they actually have 4 arms and they're competing in the Mr. Olympia. And like
Wow.
that's the epitome of the freak show that the Mr. Olympia is on the trajectory of becoming,
Mm,
right? Whereas on the natural side, and 20 years in the future, the Natty King has already been crowned multiple times. So we've actually created a lot of great momentum and movement over the past 20 years.
mm,
The light side, because I kind of like to break it up, kind of like Star Wars, where on the dark side you've got steroids, enhancements, forearm bodybuilders. And then on the light side, which are like, let's say, the Jedi, they've got different supernatural abilities. Let's
Mm,
say by peaking your physical, mental, and spiritual, you achieve abilities beyond the perception of a common man.
right.
Let's say you can like see the future, you can read minds, you have heightened reflexes just because you have gone the natural route and decided to peak your natural human potential.
Mm. Yeah,
So you
I'm
have
sure you're.
access.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm sure you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, so you can be like
Huge.
Goku with Ultra Instinct. You know, you get to that level. That's pretty cool. Pretty
Absolutely,
cool.
absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
because like
yes.
from my perspective, I mean, as I was like a kid growing up, I always thought the dark side was cooler, right?
Of course, yeah, yeah.
But why was it cooler? They made it look cooler. It was
Right.
almost intentional. Like they intentionally made it look cooler, right? So the experiment of this entire project is, can we make natural bodybuilding look cooler than the enhanced side? And my solution to that is by having in the future with this anime concept, the face of enhanced bodybuilding is literally a four-armed Goro looking guy, and the face of the natural side is like a guy who has learned the ability to master levitation, and he's incorporating that into his bodybuilding routine.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
yeah.
Good stuff. You got a lot of vision. I tell you that. That's we need that passion,
Thank
definitely.
you,
This
thank
is
you, thank
exciting.
you.
Yes.
So keeping that in mind, I would love to get some insight as to how your rivalry with Kiyoshi Moody and others was marketed. And I do want to watch that Generation Iron.
Yeah, I'll
How is that
share it.
available? Is it on
Yeah,
YouTube?
it's on Apple TV. It's on uh, uh, Prime Video.
Perfect.
So I'll share it with you.
Cool.
I'll share with you Brandon Kempter, some others. Definitely Generation Iron 4. You'll enjoy it. It's in the same line of what you're thinking. They did an awesome job of following me and other athletes around and getting that story. There are a bunch of us that they followed, and of course they did compare enhanced versus natural. Very well done. It's from the INBA, PNBA, Denny Keikos. Who I think, that's what the federation I promote is the best natural federation out there. But for me, Kyoshi Moody, we actually competed in that federation. He didn't get to Generation Iron 4 because at the time he had cancer and he was going through a lot of things, as we mentioned in Kenny's longevity muscle. But the way they chronicled that, like when Kyoshi and I came into the federation, we were very young and we first battled were like the new guys on the scene. And I had won the Natural Olympia 2007, 2008, then he came 2009. And so there was a supplement company from Australia named Horley Sports Nutrition. And they knew that there was going to be a battle pitted between myself and Kyoshi because they looked up, Googled like who's the natural Olympic, who's the best natural bodybuilding builders in the world, and me and him came up because of the natural Olympia title. So they used that and they had him do some filming and they talked about his story. Then they did the same with me. And then in 2012, we had the epic battle, which was so close and controversial in many ways, kind of like the 1980 Mr. Natural Olympia, Mr. Olympia. But at the end of the day, like our rivalry has been amazing, our friendship. And like I said, I love the guy, I love his physique, and we've always had the best respect for each other. And it's me and him having the most natural Olympia titles. So it's good to be there, within some kind of history with the guy who I think has, one of the greatest physiques of all time in natural bodybuilding. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, that's beautiful. Um, with the intention to create WWE like storylines across these 30 athletes that will be featuring in this production of the Natty King cinematic docuseries. There are still a couple of things that are floating around as to how I would like to properly capture these storylines. For instance, if it's intended to be a 15 episode season featuring
mm,
two bodybuilder athletes per episode, I question what would be the most effective way to properly tell a compelling storyline, and does each episode have to focus on, let's say, the rivalry between those specific athletes, or could one episode be dedicated to, for instance, are you familiar with Bada?
Oh, you talking about the bodybuilding?
Yes.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Bada. He's an athlete. He competes in WNBF
Yep,
most
yeah.
often.
Yep.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
African. Yeah, he is one of my favorite bodybuilders. He did the Mr. America. I judged him, and incredible physique. He's won multiple world championships. He actually got second at the Mr. America against another guy named Mishako Chiang,
Oh yeah.
who I've competed against, and is very close because Bada's huge and Mishak is shorter but just more muscular. And he reached out to me because I was the head judge. And he said, "What can I do to beat this guy?" And I gave him some tips, and then the next week he beat him. So that just goes to show you one little tweak in just your preparation, or just, he was humble enough to reach out to me and say, "What can I do? The why? What separated me from first and second?" And I said, "Look, you just need to come in more conditioned. I know you like to hold on to your size, but he was just a little bit more tighter with your size over his size. You'll get him if you're more conditioned, or just as closer." And like I said, the next week he came out and he turned the tables. He didn't get the Mr. America title, but he still won a pro show against, a very, very
Mishak.
incredible Mishak. Yes.
Who won that? Who won?
So Mishak won the first time in Mr. America. That's why Bada talked to me. And then the next show was a USBF show, another federation, which is a big USBF show. And Bada won and beat Mishak in the
Wow.
second show. And I think it was a
Wow.
week or 2 weeks later. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bada is actually the first natural bodybuilder that I ever met in person. I had
No
no
way.
idea. Yeah. He's in
Wow.
LA.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Wow.
this was before I even started my bodybuilding journey. Like I
That's
was just
crazy.
I was just getting into nutrition and health and wellness and stuff like that. And this was like 3 years ago. And
Hmm.
we're at LA Fitness and I'm seeing him hit legs and his legs are like, well, you've seen his
They're
legs.
wide. Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
ridiculous and
yeah.
sweet.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I walked up to him and I was like, "Hey, man, how do you get legs that big?" Because like as I've always been into like working out, but like I didn't train legs. I really just worked out cosmetically for to be attracted to women.
No, of
So I was
course.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
That's
you don't
that's
need
how it all
wheels.
starts. Yeah.
You don't need wheels for women."
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Little did I know that I would end up getting into the
Yeah.
sport.
Right.
So I walked up to Bada and I was like, "Hey man, what do you how long did it take you to get those legs?" And he said, I think he said 6 to 7 years that he's been training legs, and now you see the results. So that's why I'm
Right.
saying my prime is like probably 10 years away. I'm
Yeah.
33 now. Keeping
Hmm.
that in mind, fast forward as I continue to immerse myself, I didn't even know that I was going to do natural bodybuilding, but then I got into it, got into Natty News Daily, and then I started seeing Bada as I continued in the circles and stuff like that. I'm like, holy shit,
Yes.
I know that guy. So just out of, and one thing I want to clarify, and again, just this is just for like the purpose of this recorded conversation. A lot of the way that these athletes are being cast for the production or the entire King of Naturals tournament, it is very organic. There
Mm.
is a connection. There's an organic connection that is forming with myself and the athletes that are being invited. Now, once the first production comes and goes and we crown the Natty King with the 30 athletes, I do want to make it a lot broader as to how
Mm.
these athletes are being selected and make it kind of a bit more structured
Yeah.
so that people feel like they have a fair shot of being considered as opposed to like organically bumping into me and going like, "Oh, I like this guy. What's your name?"
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Of course. Yes.
But
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
meantime, the reason I'm going off of the organic approach is because with me being a storyteller, and that's another thing, yeah, like my brand is greatest natural bodybuilder of all time, but my true desire is to go down in history as the greatest storyteller of all time. And this is
Mm.
just one of many, many stories that I'll be telling over the course of my career. So keeping that in mind, if I can form a connection with a person and it's done in an organic way, I know how to tell that story
Makes
because
sense.
now
Yeah.
I'm emotionally invested and I can
Right.
ask the right kind of questions to understand exactly how to capture this person in a way that resonates with audiences.
Makes sense.
Keeping,
Yes.
yes, yeah, keeping that in mind, I would love to get Bada on and have him be a part of the roster. The thing is, if we were to do his segment of his episode, I would like to play with the idea of like he's not from America. Maybe we send him back over to you said Nigeria, I believe.
I think Nigeria. Yeah. I
Yeah,
definitely seen him go to Africa. Yeah. Yep.
exactly.
Hmm.
So like
Yep.
what if his segment of the show would be him returning back to his homeland after he just got added to the roster of the Natty King and it's getting international press release. So like
Of
the world
course.
knows
Yeah.
about it. Right.
Right.
So he's kind of going back to his hometown as a hero of sorts because like this is like an unprecedented thing. It's televised, yada yada yada, and we have like a moment of a hometown hero returning to kind of uplift his
Okay.
environment and give the people something to believe in.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing because especially, not everyone's going to be in an affluent, Washington, D.C. or California. They could be from, a poor village in Africa or somewhere in the Middle East or who knows, right? And that
Yes.
could be a great story to tell because they'll go back home a hero. I actually coached a guy also from Africa, and I coached him for free because I knew that he didn't have the finances and he's trying to get his visa to come here to compete and blah, blah, blah. And so he's from Uganda. And when he was able to do that and go back to his hometown, they celebrate him like no tomorrow. He's in the newspapers, he's a national hero. And that happens with a lot of athletes like that. So that would be definitely something to, look to enhance the the storyline, when people see like that's something you can have a full episode just on that, like you're saying. I think that would be a great thing.
Yeah, yeah, and like just keeping that in mind, I don't think that every athlete like their story has to be based around a rivalry with another athlete. I
Oh,
think
gotcha.
we can I
Yes. Yeah.
think we can strategically create rivalry storylines when it makes
Hmm.
sense. For
Yeah. Yeah.
instance, are you familiar with Alberto Nunez?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So Alberto Nunez is coaching. Let's call him genetic phenom Zach Moore, who you might not.
Yes.
He's new to the scene. He hasn't competed yet,
Right.
but a lot of
Wow.
people are excited about him, right? So
Woo.
Alberto Nunez is coaching Zach Moore. Zach is about to be stepping on stage for the first time, so that's just like
Hmm.
a perfect storyline right there.
Yeah.
Alberto is the sixth person added to the roster, and Zach is number 4. So we will be able
Wow.
to play off of that storyline, master versus protege kind of thing, right?
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Good stuff.
yeah. Okay, okay. Well, I think this is great. Last thing I'll say, just out of my head, because I love how I don't know, talking to you just is fun.
We'll do it again, man. We'll do it
Yeah.
again.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to say is that when I think about the intention for this to be an international product that
Mm.
has global appeal, we have to
Yes.
think of the inclusivity of athletes all around the world, right?
Correct. Yes.
Keeping that in
Definitely.
mind, I have this really cool concept, and again, it's supposed to be a cinematic universe akin to that of a Marvel, universe, right? So,
Yep.
keeping that in mind, we have the cinematic docuseries first. What I would like to do, if I can get funding quickly enough, is by the time 2027 comes around and like we're getting down to like the final 10 athletes on the roster, I
Mm.
want to do a whole campaign specifically in the country of India where the entire country ends up selecting their representative to compete in the tournament.
Wow.
And then
Wow. Wow. Wow.
from that, and again, greatest storyteller of all time here. So like this is how my brain works, right?
Right. Right.
From
Right.
that, we could do a whole Bollywood production of that athlete as
Wow.
a yeah. So like he would
Yeah.
obviously get featured in the cinematic docuseries, but then we
Right.
would go back and film his story specifically for the purpose of appealing to the Indian audiences, and present it in the same format of a Bollywood film with
Wow.
music, dancing, the whole
Right.
nine
Right.
yards.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah,
Good
yeah.
stuff. Awesome.
Cool,
Awesome.
cool.
Man, this is a lot. This is incredible. I'm praying that this goes through because I know that this could be huge. And it's not just you. I think many of us really were looking forward to something like this happening. I know I'm past my prime, but I have grown to a point in my lifetime as a mature, you know, man of Christ that I really look forward to everyone that's starting bodybuilding now to get that opportunity that you're trying to present. And it would be amazing if that happens. And so I'm here to assist you in any way. And I'm glad that you're, reaching out to me and Marshall and others. And so this is good stuff.
I truly appreciate it, and the reason I'm interested in speaking with individuals like yourself and Marshall is I think about like let's say this is the NBA before the NBA became what it is, right? And like this is
Right.
like the forming of the actual like this is the thing that natural bodybuilders want to be a part of in the future,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
What about the athletes that were around before the NBA was formalized? Like, and I love all of you guys. So
Right.
it's
Right.
like,
Right. Right. Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like I gotta pay homage to the people who did it first before like this
Amen.
opportunity existed.
Right.
So just keeping that in mind, my intention over like the next year or so is I do honestly want to retroactively crown the original Natty King and find a time frame of when athletes were competing, whether it be like I don't know, 1990s to 2010, and let's find that original Natty King, crown him retroactively. So then we actually have a frame of reference as to
Yeah.
what this is supposed to look like. And through
Nice.
that, we'd be able to highlight the athletes that were competing against that individual at that time. So I
Good
am looking to
stuff.
put a spotlight on you guys as well.
That's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Awesome.
Cool.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
Awesome. Okay. Well, if you could help me out, would you please put in a good word for Kenny of Longevity Muscle?
Yeah, definitely.
I reached
Penny
out
and
to
I are
him.
good friends. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Good
reached out to
friends.
him like a year ago. Granted, like I've gained more traction and momentum.
Hmm.
But if you could put in a good word, I would love to have a conversation with him just because I love
Definitely.
his knowledge.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
He's so smart and he's a great guy. He has a passion like you. He's got
yeah,
his
that's why I want to
magazine
talk to him.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
yeah.
Good stuff.
Cool.
Cool.
Okay. Well, this is the beginning of a long friendship. My mother lives in Gainbros, Maryland.
Oh
So
wow.
next time I'm
Yeah.
over there,
Nice.
let's you, myself,
Yes. Me and
Marshall, let's all get
Marshall.
together.
Game on. Game on.
I love it. I love it.
All right, brother.
Cool,
Great
man. Well,
talking
thank
to
you so
you.
much for your time.
Yep. God
All right,
bless,
man.
brother. Take care. Yep.
I'll talk to you.